In 1968, the Olympics were being held in Mexico City, and there was a man representing the country of Tanzania named John Stephen Akhwari. And he was a marathon runner, and he really didn't have much of a shot. He wasn't expected to win the marathon, but what happened to him and a lot of the other runners was as they were running in the marathon in Mexico City, they began to succumb to the altitude, and many of them started having cramps and started slowing down, and he was one of those that started slowing down. And as he slowed down, there began to be a separation in the group of people that were running, and there was kind of a trailing pack of people, all people who were starting to struggle and battle and fight against the cramps and against all this other stuff, the altitude that they had not had an opportunity to train in before. And as they were in this pack together, at about the between 18 and 19 kilometers, about 12 miles into the 26.2 mile race, John Stephen Akhwari and then some other guys were kind of jockeying for position, and he collided with another runner, and he fell. And when he fell to the ground, it cut his knee open, gashed his knee open, it dislocated his knee as well. And then he hit his shoulder very hard and wounded his shoulder. And so as you can imagine, everybody thought, well, that's the end of the race. But what happened with John is that he received medical treatment, got bandaged up, and continued moving forward. After dislocating his knee 12 miles in to a 26.2 mile race, he continued going. And what he would do is he would run when he could, and then he would stop and walk when he needed to. And then he would run when he could, and he would stop and walk when he needed to. And like I said, a lot of other runners were having a problem. Out of the 75 people that started this race, 18 of them did not even complete the race. They dropped out for a lot of different reasons. But this man who was having cramps, had gashed his knee open, was bleeding from his knee, had dislocated his knee, kept on going. The winner was a man from Ethiopia. He won in 2 hours and 20 minutes. And after he crossed the finish line, and most of the other people crossed the finish line, they had a medal ceremony. And in that medal ceremony, he got his gold medal. Everybody kind of started to leave the area. Most of the athletes were gone. Most of the crowd was gone at this point. But an hour after that happened, John Akhwari came walking into the stadium. And people had heard that there was another runner. They didn't know the story of what was going on, but they had heard that there was another runner. The news station actually did know a little bit of the story, and so they waited around to follow. And there was this kind of murmur among the crowd that there was some people, the people that were left in there, that there was somebody still coming in. And so he walked into the stadium, and as he walked in, he started hobbling. As he was hobbling into the stadium, he started jogging again. The last 150 meters or so, he finished the race. And when he ended the race, they asked him a question. They said, "Why did you carry on?" And here's what he said. He said, "My country did not send me 5,000 miles to start the race. They sent me 5,000 miles to finish the race." Last week, we talked about how you and I can persevere in this life of faith. And we talked about getting into the race. But we don't want to just be in the race. We don't want to just even persevere in the race. We want to finish in the race. So what do you do when your faith, this life of faith that we discussed last week, when your faith is stretched, when your faith is pushed to the limits, when you're facing trials and tribulations in your life, what happens? And that's what we're going to talk about today as we look at perseverance. If you have your Bible, you can turn to Romans chapter 5, put your finger there, and you can turn over to James chapter 1. That's where we're going to spend our time. We're going to start in James chapter 1, and we'll finish in Romans chapter 5. Here's what it says in James chapter 1, starting in verse 2. It says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." He says, consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds. Now, I don't know about you, That's one of those statements that you go, what is he really saying, right? Consider it pure joy when you face trials. Anybody in this room, when you face a trial in your life, when you're dealing with struggle, battle, loss, when you're dealing with pain, when you're dealing with health issues, sickness, anything like that, you're like, man, this is amazing. I love it. This is so great. I'm so joyful right now. Pure joy in my heart as I face this trial. Most of us don't respond that way. And there's a reason, a legitimate reason for a lot of us not to respond that way. But James, the writer of this book, says, consider it pure joy. How can you and I consider it pure joy? Before we get to how we can consider it pure joy, I want us to understand the word trials. He says, whenever you face many different types of trials, there's two things that he's talking about here. That word that's used in the original language actually means two different things. It could be used as temptations or testing or trials, that kind of picture. It actually is used to cover both different types of scenarios. Alexander McLaren gave a clarification on temptations versus trials. He says that those are two different experiences, but temptations appeal to the worst part of man, hoping that man would yield. That's what temptation does. It appeals to the worst part of who we are. And trials appeal to the best part of man, hoping that he would stand. And here's how he described it. He says, temptations say this. Temptations say, do this pleasant thing and do not be hindered by the fact that it is wrong. That's what temptation does. But trials say, do this right and noble thing and do not be hindered by the fact that it is painful. That's the difference between temptation and trial. And every hardship you and I go through has the potential to be a temptation or a trial. But a lot of times it has to do with how you and I respond to it. That's what determines for most of us. So how do we consider it pure joy? The next verse, verse 3 says, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. There's a process that unfolds. When it comes to perseverance, if you and I want to not just start the race, not just get in the race, but finish the race with perseverance, we have to understand the process that starts to unfold. And I'm not talking about a marathon in real life. I'm not talking about running. I'm not talking about any kind of physical fitness. I'm talking about the race of faith, living a life of faith. If you and I want to finish the race, there's a process that's going to unfold for every single one of us. As our faith is tested, here's what happens. The first thing is that testing produces something. Testing produces perseverance. This is what it says, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Now, here's the reality. Perseverance is a character trait. It's a quality that every single one of us wants to have. If I asked how many of you want to be a person that has perseverance, every person in the room would raise their hand. We all want to have perseverance, but on the other side of that, most of us, all of us, don't want to have to go through the process that requires perseverance. The process to have and acquire perseverance in our life, most of us don't want to go through that process that's going to produce that in our life. Now, we didn't get into last week very much. We didn't get into what that word originally means. The word in the original Greek for perseverance that you see, it's translated 7 times. It's used 22 times, but it's translated 7 times, endurance. But the word is hupomone. Hupomone. And that word means to remain under or to abide under. Here's what it means. It's the image of you and I taking a weight on our shoulders and saying, I'm going to stay under this weight. To remain under the weight, the burden that is developing us, that is producing something in us. Why would you choose to remain under something like that? The only reason you choose is because you know that it's building you. Anybody go lift weights? Have you ever had a time in your life when you lifted weights? Anytime you lift weights, they'll tell you that what you need to do is you need to have extended amount of time under strain, under stress, under pressure, because as you do that, if you lift really light weights, you can just use your finger and you're just lifting these light weights. You know, I'm taking a wooden pencil and I'm lifting it. You're not going to build anything, right? But if you want to build some strength in your life, if you want to build some strength in your body, you're going to have to lift some heavy weight. And the more and more you lift it, here's what's interesting. You're building the capacity, the ability to lift more weight. But it requires you to spend time under that strain. It requires me to spend time, all of us to spend time under that. Why do we allow ourselves to go through stuff like that? When we go lift weights, why do we allow ourselves to go through stuff like that? The pain, the struggle, the strain, taking ourselves to the point of failure because we know that it's building us. And the same is true in our life of faith. There's a lot of different trials that I think all of us go through at different times. And maybe today you say, you know what, I'm actually in one of those times. I'm in one of those times where I feel like I'm carrying a heavy weight. And I don't want to be under this weight anymore, whether it's a health problem. Maybe you got a phone call that said, hey, I need to tell you about something, and I need you to sit down to listen to this. We got to talk through the plan. We got to talk through a treatment plan. Hey, you're going to need chemo. Hey, I know that you've got a family member that's struggling in the hospital right now. Maybe you're dealing with the loss of a loved one recently. Maybe you're dealing with the loss of a relationship, loss of a job. And you say, man, I've got this burden, I've got this weight that I'm under right now, and I don't want to be under it anymore. I don't want to have to carry that. This word perseverance means to remain under. And the only way you and I would choose to remain under is when we believe that it's building us. That's how we rejoice in trials. This word is more than endurance. It's so much more than that. It's the quality which makes man able not just to suffer things, but to conquer them. And when we talk about perseverance in life of faith, that's what we need. Not just the ability to suffer things, but to actually conquer them. We don't passively endure trials, but actively overcome our trials and tribulations of life through perseverance. And then in verse 4 it says, let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. We're going to move to Romans 5 in just a second, but why would it say that we need to allow perseverance to continue its work, to finish and complete its work? Because again, what most of us want to do is we want to take ourselves out. We don't want to remain under anything that's difficult for very long. We have that tendency in everything, but here's the reality. If you went and said, you know what, I'm going to start getting healthy in my life. I want to make sure that my body is healthy. I want to do everything I can to live a healthy life. We don't show up at the gym one day, walk in, lift weights for 5 minutes, walk out, and we're like, I did it. I'm healthy, right? If you and I want to live a healthy lifestyle, it's going to require us to walk into a space over and over and over and over again, to change some things, to make some decisions in our life that we say, you know what, I know my goal, and because I know the goal, I'm going to make continued decisions in the direction of my goal, because we're not healthy physically in our body. We are not healthy through one moment. We build it over a long time. Nobody walks into a gym and thinks, I'm going to walk out once and be healthy. That's how we allow perseverance to finish its work. When we continue to go forward, to allow it, say, God, whatever it is that you have for me, as I carry this weight that you've entrusted to me, that you've given to me, you've allowed this to happen. God, as I carry this weight, I want to make sure that I get out of it what you want me to get out of it. I want to make sure that it's producing what you're wanting it to produce. I want to make sure that this is a trial in my life that's calling me up, that's beckoning for the greatest part of who I am, which really, God, I've got nothing, so I'm just trusting you that I want to stand at the end of this. I don't want it to turn into a temptation that I give into, that I yield into at the end of it. So this process, I want to see how it unfolds in Romans chapter 5, how it continues to unfold. Romans 5, verse 1 through 3. It says, therefore, since we have been justified, that means to be made right with God. Through faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have gained access by faith into this grace in which we now stand, and we boast in the hope of the glory of God. And then verse 3. It says, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings. Now, Paul is saying it too. Can you believe it? James says, rejoice. Have great joy. Consider it pure joy when you face suffering and trials of many kinds. Now, Paul says we glory in our suffering because we know that suffering produces perseverance. But then it says perseverance, character, and character, hope. Suffering, trials produce perseverance, but perseverance proves something. What does perseverance prove? It proves character. This is what Paul says. It proves character. This word is dokime. And in the secular Greek, it was used to talk about metals when they had been tested and determined to be pure. This idea is that when you put metal through a fiery test, that when it comes out on the other side, you will know that it is genuine, it has persevered, and it has endured. And you call it authentic or genuine metal. This is the sense that he uses this word. That it's proven character. Some of your translations might not just say character, it might say proven character. That's because that's really what that word means. It's something that has been proven, that has been tested and proven. When you and I go through tribulation, when your faith is tested, and if you persevere, you get proven character. You have proof that your faith is real. And here's what happens. When we enter into the fire, when we go through trials and testing and temptation, here's what happens in our life is that we have to understand that God is not trying to destroy us. He's trying to develop us. When God allows you and me to go through these times of struggle and trial and testing, He's not trying to destroy you. Have you ever felt like maybe God's trying to destroy you? You ever felt like maybe He's against you in some way? I want you to know you wouldn't be alone if you felt that way. There's many people, you look all through Scripture, many people saying, God, I don't understand. I don't understand what's happening. I don't know what's going on. I don't understand why I'm going through this. But I'll go through this because I trust you. He says, we glory in our suffering because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. Suffering, trial, temptation produces something in our lives. It produces perseverance. Perseverance proves character. But character provides us with something that we can't get any other way. Hope. Character provides us, proven character provides us with hope. And that's kind of interesting because the thing I started asking as I was studying this, I was like, doesn't hope come first? Like we always think like, oh, I hope this happens. I hope, and hope is always something that I'm looking ahead to, right? Hope is always something that I'm just hoping down the road that something will come up, something will come out of it, or anything like that. But he says that at the end of all this, what is provided to you and me through this process is hope. How is that possible? Why would he use that word? Why is hope the product that comes out at the end of it? You remember what we talked about last week? That faith in motion builds confidence in what we do not see. It builds confidence for you and me in what we do not see. I grew up collecting baseball cards and basketball cards and all that kind of stuff, and there's something interesting that happens when you collect memorabilia of any different kind is you know that there's a whole lot of fakes, right? If you want something that's autographed and you want to purchase something from somebody that you say, I want this autograph from my favorite player or this person in history, there's a whole lot of fakes out there. And so you have to get what's called a certificate of what? Authenticity. Why do you need that certificate of authenticity? So that you know that what you have in your hand, what you hold, what you own is authentic. I don't know about you, but there's been times in my life where I've kind of wondered, is my faith authentic? I remember when I was in school as a young kid and they heard the story of what happened in Columbine. And I was a Christian at the time, and there was a student that the story goes that she was asked, Rachel Scott, she was asked, do you believe in God? She was known to be a Christian young girl. One of the killers pointed a gun at her head and said, "Do you believe in God?" She said, "Yes." And he pulled the trigger. And I remember thinking, I wonder what I would have done in that moment. I wonder what I would have said or thought in that moment. Because I think that there's a reality for me that, and probably for all of us, that we want to believe that we would have done that, but we're not sure that we would have done that. If you're a follower of Jesus, it's not just something that happened a long time ago, the world of persecution. It's something that's still happening. There's people, Christians in Nigeria right now, that are being slaughtered. Not just Christian people being slaughtered because they're Christians. It's happening right now. People who refuse to deny their faith, and I start to think, if I had a knife to my throat, what would I say? If somebody said, "You'll be spared if you deny your God," what would I say? You begin to wonder if your faith is authentic. But when you go through trial, when you go through testing, when you go through all of this and you persevere and you have proven character, then what you also have is you have a hope of authenticity, of knowing that you're authentic. Here's what John Piper says. He says, "Isn't the answer that when your faith has been tried in affliction and persevered and thus proven genuine and authentic, you know you are a real and not fake Christian? And that undergirds your hope or your certainty that you really are a child of God and will inherit God's glory." In other words, one of the great obstacles to a full and strong hope in the glory of God is the fear that we are hypocrites, that our faith is not real and we just inherited it from our parents and have been motivated by things that are not honoring to God. One of the purposes of suffering and affliction is to give us victory over those fears and make us full of stable hope and confidence as the children of God. That's what perseverance does. That's what it develops. It starts to proven character in our life and give us hope that our life and our faith is authentic and genuine. And here's the overflow of a faith that is authentic and genuine. When we go through trials and we say, "You know what, God, I don't love it, but I believe that you're still in it. I believe that you're still here. I know that you're still with me." It changes how we walk through trials and testing and temptation. You think about all these stories of the martyrs over the years, over thousands of years, who've died for their faith. And what happens over and over and over and over again is that people who are even the ones killing them, guys like Paul, who wrote this in Romans, who watched Stephen die and say, "I see the glory of God. I see Jesus standing at the right hand of the throne of God," and says, "Father, forgive them. God, forgive them for what they're doing." And here's what happens. These people who are in total opposition, who are part of the murdering crowd, are blown away at how Christian people die. Not just because they're willing to die for their faith, but the way they're willing to do it, with grace, with love. People even singing while they're being killed, while they're burned, singing songs of glory to God. There was one story of a martyr who was smiling in the flames. And while he was burning, they said, "What are you smiling at?" And he says, "I saw the glory of God, and I was glad." That's authentic faith. There's a group of women that studied the book of Malachi. And as they were studying through this book of Malachi, they got to chapter 3, verse 3. It says, God will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. And as they were studying, they were talking about it, like, we don't really understand what that means. And so one of the ladies said, "You know what, I'm going to figure out what that means." And she said, "I'm going to go and find a silversmith." And so she went and found somebody that was a silversmith and said, "Hey, I just want to learn about the refining process." She wanted to make sure he had no idea why she was coming. She just said, "I just want to learn about the process. Will you teach me about the process of refining silver. So the silversmith said that she could come, set it up, and he held a piece of silver over the fire, and he put it over the center of the fire and turned it up hotter and hotter and hotter. And he explained that in refining silver, the silversmith has to hold it in the center of the fire where the flames were the hottest to burn away all the impurities. And as she watched this, she thought about the verse that God sits as a refiner of silver, and she asked a question. She says, do you have to sit there and watch it the whole time? And he said, absolutely. I have to watch it and keep my eye on it at all times because there's a point at which it can be destroyed. And if I'm a good silversmith, I want to make sure it doesn't get destroyed. So she sat silently for just a moment and then asked the question. She said, how do you know when it's fully refined? And he says, I know it's fully refined and pure and clean when I can see my reflection clearly in it. If you're going through trial, if you're going through testing, if you're going through temptation, I want you to know that you have a refiner who might be allowing that to happen, but he is there with you. His eye is on you. He has not let go of you at any point in the process. He's watching. He's making sure that it doesn't destroy you. And he's using it to refine you. When we go through trials, when we go through testing, when we have that understanding, then here's what happens. It purifies us. It produces perseverance. It proves character. And it provides us with hope. And then here's what's amazing. We become more like Jesus. We start to reflect the one who created us. And sometimes, some of us want so badly out of the fire that we never allow God to do the work of making us more like him. So if you're going through a trial, if you're going through testing, let me encourage you to just trust the Lord. I don't know how. It's only through him that we can consider it pure joy. It's only through him that we can glory in our sufferings because we can say, God, I trust you and I know that you're not using this to destroy me. God, you are using this to develop me. And God, because I know that, I'm willing to go through whatever you want me to go through. But God, on the backside of this, make me more like you. I want you to see a reflection of yourself in me. And I want others to see you in me as well. It only happens as we persevere through trial. That's how you and I experience the power of God in our daily lives.